All right. Should be on. Got a few people on already, which is fantastic. So thank you so much for joining. For those of you that are in, if anyone can give me a thumbs up just so I can make sure that you can all hear me and everything's working great. I've got the good laptop working today, which is fantastic. There's about 11 of yous on. Here we go. Stuart, Chris, Eli, the gang's in. We've got people waiting to come on. Going to be a massive show. So thank you to tease in the usual suspects, which is fantastic. So thank you everybody for joining another episode of the Fan Forum. I'm your host, Andreas. So it's good to have you all on tonight. We've got a few special guests coming on tonight. So we're going to have three people on, myself and two others. And we're going to dissect everything that's happened probably over the last few days, from the North Melbourne game leading up until now, going into the Hawks game. We've had debutantes. We've had, players that were fringe players coming into the side and playing their role fantastic, which is exactly what you want to see, especially this time of season when obviously, we've got players that are injured and then slowly our injury list is getting bigger, but then we've got players coming back in also, which is great. So thank you everyone for joining in. Before we start, I just want to give a massive shout out to our sponsors. So the Hopper Bros Barbecue, make sure you give them a follow on Instagram, and also New Homes Victoria, your local builder. If anyone wants a tailored home and land package or looking to build or anything like that, please jump on Instagram, give them a like, and we can get that sorted out. So I'm going to add in our guests at the moment. And if I can get Dan, yep, he's ready to go. Hatters, you ready to go? Let's do it. Let's get him in. Boys, how are we?
Good evening.
Boys.
Nice to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on tonight, guys. I really appreciate it. I wanted to have Dan on this since I started, which is awesome to have you on. And Hatters, you're becoming a regular now, so which is awesome. You're getting my subscribers up, which is fantastic. So, speaking of which, we're at 942 subscribers on the channel, and I'm catching up to Pies Nation. They're only like 10 ahead of me, so I'm slowly getting there. Guys,
you're doing well, Andreas.
Thanks, heaps. Appreciate it. Dan, I want to start with you, mate. Tell me.
Sorry to cut you off. I've got a big echo here.
You got an echo?
Yeah, I might have to log out and go back in.
No one can hear an echo on your thing.
Oh, yeah, like when you're speaking, I'm hearing myself speak.
Oh, okay. That's all right. I'll go to Hatters first. Do what you got to do. Jump out and then jump back in. That's perfectly fine. Do that. I'll remove you now. All good. So Hatters, while Dan's sorting out his technical difficulties that he's had all day to sort out, what were your thoughts on the North Melbourne game? Tell me, because my opinion of the guys coming in just playing their role, it was so good to see them just do their thing.
Yeah, it's an impressive performance given the quality outs and the late changes that happened. The perfect thing was the guys coming in. Parker played well. Ed Allen, I think, wasn't a breakout game, but for the people who have had some faith in him, like myself, it was actually good to see him actually show some real signs of improvement within a game. And that last quarter, when the game sort of broke open, that's the sort of thing that I think we'll come to expect from Ed Allen in 30, 40 games' time. You'll see that more regularly.
So how did you think, though, like Hayes went? I mean, he found himself in some really good spots throughout the game. Did you feel that like he was a bit slow? How did you think he adjusted as the game went on?
Oh, it's difficult. I mean, he's obviously a very light player. You sort of, I mean, you look at him, and he seemed to cope with the tempo enough. He got to good positions. I think he laid about 6 tackles. I think he was in a few score involvements. So from limited opportunities, he did as much as probably what you could expect. He probably didn't have the best lead in form the last couple of weeks of the VFL. I mean, we sort of spoke about last week that we sort of thought maybe West might come into the team, but he'll got his opportunity, and good luck to him. he'll probably get tipped out this week, but he may get an opportunity later on in the year. But I think another pre-season where he can put on a little bit of weight will definitely help him next year.
Yeah, I thought that his decision making though was really good. He didn't really turn the ball over or anything like that. He was doing like short 45 little dinky kicks and stuff that he was timing quite perfectly. I know he got that rundown tackle. I think it was at Aiden Court. Was it Core that tackled him? He did that big tackle. I thought to myself that, like, you know, that's sort of really, if anything, it's just a welcome sort of to the game, you know, like you're in the big time now sort of thing. But, you know, you're going to get those regardless. I thought Ed Allen's game, though, was really good. And, you know, it's good to see that he's getting that opportunity to string a few games together now. And he obviously wasn't he wasn't a sub or anything like that. And the same thing you could probably say to Lockie Sullivan. He's obviously played a lot more, but he was looking unbelievable at times around the ground. Did you think that he had one of his breakout games for us for this one?
Yes, I think like Sullivan, he's at the VFL. He dominates as an on-baller. So, but when he plays in the AFL, he seems to play more half forward, and he plays a little bit sporadically in the midfield. So it's hard for him to rack up the positions that he does in the VFL, but yeah, he does his job up forward. He's a good snapper of the ball. He works well with the other forwards, so you can see why McRae's persisted with him.
Yeah, they're saying that TJ got injured in the reserves, and Jacob Ryan had a really good standout game against North in the reserves. Do you reckon Jacob Ryan's a chance to maybe be that next one if they're still hedging their bets a bit with Hayes?
Yeah, it's interesting because he's another that hasn't had a great VFL season. I mean, I don't watch all the VFL games, but from what I've seen, he hasn't been, say, in the last few weeks, like Dimitia. He's had 3 fantastic games in the last 3 weeks, and he's been an emergency. With the guys coming back in this week, I can't see a spot for Ryan at the moment.
Yeah. Well, do you think that Markov then would be the one that sort of has to make way this week? Because like we could talk about our ins, but before we do, there's a fair few comments that I really wanted to get to. But I'll start from up here. We've got, you know, this one here coming in. So it's a good segue to the Markov sort of debate here, because you got Stuart saying that Bruzzy should be back in soon. Now, they were saying that it could be like most of the season, then it could be 6 weeks, and then it went down to 1 to 2, depending on what the scans were saying. And I think the last that I read was 1 to 2 weeks, which is a good sign. But, I mean, with an injury like that, you probably want to just take it cautious and wait till the bias.
With that injury, now that he's actually snapped it, it'll recover fine. The worst thing it could have been is if he maybe had a partial tear, or he didn't actually tear it at all. So it's actually surprisingly a better result for him to snap it than not to have done. So he should be able to probably start light running again this weekend, and be back for the King's birthday game.
Jeez, that's a gross result considering.
Well, I think back in the day, Robert Harvey snapped his and played the next week.
Oh, geez. Okay. So it's a quick healing process. I remember there was a player for Geelong. I think it might have been Egan, I think his name was. He didn't have a plantar fascia. He had a stress fracture on the top of his foot. And and do you remember he had a slight chip in it or something like that? And
I think he ended up having like a really severe syndesmosis type injury that I think that actually ended his career.
It did. And then I think he went on to become an assistant coach at Essendon for a little bit, and then he just sort of tailed off into the abyss sort of thing. Another one here too, Bozza, our man, Champion Data, come out and said that Dan McStay could possibly or could potentially return for the King's birthday game. That'd be a big one if he could get in for King's birthday. Considering the backline that Melbourne's got, obviously we'll look ahead to the Hawthorn game first before that. But if he comes back in, that'd be pretty massive, considering that, you know, with the Lever and May and stuff down back, you know, they're going to have to need more tools down back to stop us with our fairly tall forward line.
Yeah, he seems to he recovers fairly quickly from injuries, doesn't he, McStay? I mean, he's had his problems with injuries coming to Collingwood, but he rebounds fairly quickly, which it's testament to his professionalism.
Yeah. Well, the knees he has. I mean, the knee injury that he copped, obviously after the grand final in preseason, he was back, but what, 3/4 of the way through the season, and then the longest one I think was for like those innocuous ones was the one that he had on his finger, like before. Like I think that was like during the 2023 season, and then he came back and then he did his knee against GWS and then missed the granny and then did it in the preseason. So he's had a horrible run, but everyone's commenting on this, and I've got to put it up here, and I want to get your thoughts because my thoughts personally is, and I want to sort of tell you who he reminds me of, but I'll put RJ's comment on because Boz is just absolutely hacking the chat right now. RJ said that Ned was incredible, and I'm listening to obviously things on the radio and stuff this morning and everything, and he's getting noticed. And it's good to see that, like, you know, we noticed it at the start and everyone was like, all right, calm down, blah, blah, blah. But now, because obviously he was a sub coming in and everything, but you look at him now, and is there anyone that he reminds you of in particular?
Oh, he's probably a lesser skilled Patrick Cripps, I would say. And that's not being like sort of disrespectful to Ned Long, but he's the same sort of height as Cripps. He's got the physicality. He's got the ability to extract the ball and put it to the right areas. But yeah, he's been a fantastic inclusion, and in his rapid improvement this season is why we've improved a lot this year.
Yeah, I find that like he's got a really really big engine. He's got that burst of speed. Like he'll get the ball and he'll just break a tackle, and but when he's got it or he's free and open, he's just off. And for someone of that size, you don't get that very often. Like with that build and the posture that he's got and stuff, his burst of speed. It just reminds me of the way Swanee was when Swanee got the ball and he just took off with it. Obviously, like skill-wise and consistency and longevity and stuff like that is few and far between. But I've just got that feeling that it could be really handy because you've got Nick Dacos who's making all the great decisions, and it's like it's Pendlebury, but then you've got someone like that. It just reminds me of those mid 2010 times and stuff with the both of them in there, which I'm hoping if they could be half as good, I'll be wrapped. But who else have we got coming back in? We've got Darcy Moore coming back in, which I think is going to be massive for our defence, and then we've got Lockie Schultz. Yeah. I think that's going to be a massive one against the Hawks. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, Schultz was in obviously great form before he did his hamstring and was playing quite well until he got concussed. So it'll probably take him maybe a week or two to get back to his best form, but it'll just add to our forward strength. It'll give like they'll probably obviously focus on Jamie Elliott given his hot form this year, but that's going to allow our other forwards to get off the chain.
Yeah, cool. I do have a message here that somebody is finally ready and it's all working fine. So I'm going to add him in because I'm about to talk about the North game now. So he came in at the perfect time. Can you hear me, Robbo?
Bucks, can you hear me, Bucks?
Yeah, you're right, Dad. You've worked out your technical deficiencies.
Can you believe I used to work for Telstra?
Go figure.
No wonder,
mate. We're just talking about the ins and outs. Obviously, the players that come in for this game. So we're up to the part now where like we're saying like Moore and Shooter are coming back in against the Hawks.
Yeah.
Do you feel like? How do you feel Shooter's going to go? This is his first game back, and what's he going to add to us, especially in the forward line?
Yeah, look, he's the barometer for our pressure. It's funny because after a concussion, players they can go either two ways. They might take a couple of weeks to to come good, but I like the fact they gave him that extra week. So he's had 2 weeks, and his symptoms apparently were pretty good after the game. So I'm hoping he'll just pick up, because after the hamstring, that Freo game, he was actually looking good before, obviously, the concussion came. So yeah, I think he's massive, and Houston can learn a lot off him, because it took Schultz a good best part of 20 weeks to work out our system and work out how he fits into it.
I felt that's right, because I felt like Schultz got better. Like Schultz really came into it like the last month of the season, like those games against Brisbane, even the game against Sydney where we lost, and also the game against Melbourne, the last round of the season. Like he just fit in perfectly. It was like he had no trouble whatsoever at the start of the season, and he carried that straight into preseason, and then obviously the start of the year this year. So hopefully, I feel like Perryman's adjusted quite well though into our system. Out of the 3 new boys that have come in this season, I feel Perryman's probably the one that's playing a very similar role to the role that he had at GWS, like around the pack, get the hands out, and then become that run with player. And then you've seen him now kick a couple of goals, from around the 50, running in, getting that last handball. I think he's just the link in the chain that we really needed, like last season in particular.
That left foot goal that he kicked on Saturday night, how classy was that?
Yeah. So we'll go to the North Melbourne game now that you're in, Dan. What were your thoughts in the first half? What were you thinking, especially like?
Look, I was worried leading up to the game, just mainly for the players we had out. And I was just not because I just thought it was going to be a danger game. And then when I heard Bobby was out and Pendles, I was like, this is an uphill battle. I was really worried. But I underestimated how bad North is. They really went to water in the second half. Look, how can you not be happy? I mean, nine starting 22 best 23 players out, and we're not talking just average players. We've got some stars in there, all our leaders in Pendles and Sidey. So the main thing is the system didn't break. But what caught my eye from that match the most was Jack Crisp. He had 3 touches to halftime, and he wasn't hitting the 10-1 centre bounce during that periods. Yeah, I think it's a bit of it's not a problem, but it's a good problem to have in a way. He plays his best footy in the middle. That's what I think he does, and I think that's where he won his Copelands, predominantly playing in the middle. Now that we've got Long, and that it'll be interesting to see what we do with Jack sort of moving forward. What pleased me the most, you had Bo McCurry step up as an inside mid. His bursts away from the centre clearance was outstanding. Ned Long, what a pickup! He's transformed that big time. And the kids stood up. Ed Allen, he's starting to show, I guess some attributes that can sort of seem to be a great link player on the wing. I said to Hatters while you were trying to get your dial-up connection and stuff like that working, I was saying to him that it's really good that Ed Allen's getting, just the consistent games now, because like he had that game against Brisbane where he came on as sub and he only got like 12 minutes or whatever, and then he pretty much got dropped the week after. And then he's come in and then he's played his role because we're moving the magnets and stuff around. And then I just think it's good to get those players as much game time as possible. And he's actually improving more as he goes. The issue that we've got this week though, against Hawthorn, which we'll move on to the Hawthorn game shortly, but we've got Darcy Moore coming back in, and we've got obviously Pendles and all these players coming back in. There could be up to 5 changes, is what the guys were saying. Is someone like Ed Allen now going to have to miss out because the boys are coming in?
I wouldn't think so. He's definitely in the starting 18 for me.
Yeah. So if you, so for me, he's right on the line of who's going to miss out. But if you look at the North game, you got, and I was saying to Hatters before, Dan, you got players like Sullivan who have just taken their game to the next level. Like Sullivan's playing, I'm not going to say he's as good as Jordan De Goey, but when he's in the midfield and he gets the ball, his burst of speed, his decision-making, finding himself in the right spots, that's what we've been screaming for De Goey to be doing now for the last couple of seasons, or pretty much since the grand final. You know what I mean? And Sullivan's coming into the team and he's playing his role. Is he someone that's going to be on the chopping block for the next game with these players coming in? And look, to be honest with you, this is, as Hatter said before, this is the best problem to have. You know, this is the problem that, you know, you win premierships with. But it's going to be such a squeeze. So who do you think, Dan, is going to come out this game?
I think the changes this week, Allen will stay in. I think Hoskin Elliott will be sub. And he's a good sub because he can play a variety of roles. But I think, unfortunately, Parker, Sullivan, Hayes, Markov, and Bruzzy, who got injured, they're the five that will make way.
That's four. That's four. Parker, Hayes, Sully, and Bruz. There's one more.
Markov.
Sorry, I missed that one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the only one I'd have different to that, I'd given Hawthorn's a smaller sort of team, I'd probably tip out Cox.
Yeah.
I'd let Cameron ruck 95% of the game and just get Membry and Ned Long to do the bits and pieces, because Membry showed enough rucking against Sherry in the forward line to suggest that he'll be able to deal with it.
Who's second rucks for the Hawks?
I think they use Shoal. I think
is it Meek the ruckman?
Meek.
Second ruck is Shoal.
He got dropped.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry, not Meek. Ned Moore got dropped.
Okay. Because they do have a couple of big boys, the Hawks. They've got a couple of big ones. But you think Darcy Cameron, I mean, I'm a pretty big advocate for Cox, but he's sort of let me down the last couple of weeks, but he's still, you know, giving that relief to Cameron where he needs it. But Hawthorn are a much smaller, quicker side. So we'll move on to the Hawthorn game in a second, but I've got a question I want to pose to both you guys. Who's been the bigger improver this year that's come out the blocks, Ned Long or Billy Frampton?
You'd have to say Ned Long. I mean, we sort of knew what Billy Frampton could do. It was just a case of getting him back into the team and giving him an opportunity. Because we've seen him play some good roles in the back line. But, yeah, in terms of pure impact, it has to be Ned Long.
Yeah. We'll get to the Hawthorn game in a second. Just want to go a couple of these comments because they're coming through thick and fast here. So I could talk to you boys all day without looking at the comments, and then people will get shitty. So I've got to keep going. I've got Haiku Bob here saying how good his hats. So that's one for you there.
Yeah, Bobby's a legend.
We've got Michael Gary who's jumped in and says who gets dropped this week, which we've already spoken about. This one here from Bobby, he turns around and he says, "What happens when Titch is fit?" And this is the burning question. And I was watching a show on AFL.com. Damien Barrett and Matthew Lloyd were having a chat, and Damien Barrett now is saying that, you know, Titch is one player that we have out because he's almost ready to go. So you need to start considering him, which I think is 100% correct. And I don't usually agree with Damien Barrett quite a bit. I'll go this one with you, Dan. What do you reckon happens when Titch is ready to go?
Yeah, interesting. I heard McRae say today, Jonah asked him how far away is he, and he said, look, I'm going to have a chat to Titch after training, and, you know, but he mentioned he's at least a couple of weeks away, which sort of suggests to me he's not quite done enough yet in the VFL in terms of performances to warrant McRae sort of putting him in. But when he's ready to go, look, we've lost clearances a lot. Against North, we got smashed. Bear in mind, we had some pretty good players out, Sidey and Pendles and so forth. But clearances haven't been our strong suit in most of the games this year, but we've sort of still getting our scoring from the defence where we can move the ball forward. So there is a spot for him. Who comes out? There's going to be injuries, unfortunately. We all know that. And to have players like that waiting in the wings,
it's pretty good.
That's what premiership teams have. You look at our last 2 premierships. So who comes out? It'll come down to form. Do you reckon it'll come down to matchups of the actual opposition as well? That'll be what they'll have to suss out who we're playing, and like all factors will come into it, no matter what. Yeah, 100%. There are different roles that other players can play. So, for example, they may see Lipinski as a player they could potentially move out of the side and move a few magnets around to get Titch in. I mean, that's if everyone's fit. There are certain structural things they've got to consider, but I mean, he's a Brownlow medalist and he's a clearance beast, so I wouldn't yet write him off. But it's a hard team to get into. So I was listening to the Pies Nation podcast, and I'll give them a shout out because I do love listening to their podcast, especially when I'm working. I've got a bullshit drive out to Geelong that I've got to do. It makes the hour go quick. That there was a stat on that they said today that out of the games that we've played so far, we've pretty much broken even in all the centre clearances. Like, we've had patches in the games where we've been smashing the centre clearances and then obviously worked our way back in. But there was 3 so far this year that we've been absolutely like smacked in. So obviously it was against Freo. It was the first half against North Melbourne. And the other game that we got smacked in the midfield was the clearances was actually the Port Adelaide game where we won by 91 points. Right. I didn't know. So how's that? Like, and then I'm thinking that's more of a thing where we're trusting our defensive setup quite well, where we're not like, if we don't get our hands on the ball first, like it's okay sort of thing. We've got the defensive structure and system to obviously attack and go from there. But I mean, losing so many centre clearances, I mean, you look at the ones that we won on the weekend, especially in that last quarter, just to finish off with the North Melbourne game, that last quarter, just the amount of clearances and like, all right, fair enough, North Melbourne sort of shut off and whatever. And if they had played against anybody the week before, they would have lost to that, and they beat Richmond. I think that's quite obvious. But I was just surprised with how easy it was to get the ball out the middle. And you mentioned Chris before. He had 3 touches up until half-time. In the second half, he was one of our best players. Like, he was probably our top 3 best player. I think it was Josh, Nick, and Crispy just getting their hands on the ball so much. Do you think that we're toying with sides at the start of the game and then we're just going in, or why is it taking so long for us to adjust to the actual game?
I think it's just. I reckon it's just it's the matchups on the day, and because we've got so many different rotation options now. Like you touched on earlier, like McCreary's having a spell in there, Chris, Pendlebury, Sidebottom, Long, Josh Dacos, Nick Dacos. There's so many different options that we're not getting the ball out the same way, and we're probably not defending it the same way. So we're a lot less predictable than we used to be. You're looking back in 2023, we pretty much had the same sort of starting 3 or 4, maybe 5 players. We didn't rotate as much. But now we can go through phases of the game where we can actually really dominate teams. And whilst we might be losing the first possession, I think this team is so structured that they're able to set up defensively almost straight away when they do lose the clearance to then bounce back out of half back. What do you reckon, Dan?
Yeah, look, the major difference that I see from now into 2023 is what you touched on, but also our defence is rock solid. I remember there was a period in 23 where we used to leak a lot of goals out the back a lot, a little bit, and towards the end of that year as well, and that was a little bit concerning. this year, the trust I've got when that ball goes in our back 50, I'm backing the guys there to either bring the ball to ground or take an intercept most times. And they're doing that. And you look at the Freo game, look at the North game, where we were losing those clearances and our defence has stood up. In terms of the midfield mix, the only criticism I'll have with it is I would have liked the change up to happen a little bit quicker. So when we were sort of losing clearance after clearance in the first half, I would have liked we're not on-field leadership, where Chris puts his hand up and says, look, I'm going to go have a crack in there, just to mix it up a little bit. I don't know if that's a directive that they've got or it needs to come from the coaches. But my gut feel is the players make that call. They make that call on the field of who goes in and who mixes it up. So I would like that. So when we are getting momentum against us and losing clearance, regularly, to change it up a lot quicker, rather than wait to halftime, players to sort of come out and then restructure it and then go. I'd rather do that more in game. But that's a slight criticism because it doesn't happen that often. As you said, there's only three games that we've smashed. So it's not a major concern, but
do you think that on that too? Just on that, you made a really good point about like the on-field leadership in the midfield and stuff like that. Do you think the fact that we didn't have Pendles and Sidey there was 100%. the reason why that call wasn't made?
100%. There's no doubt in my mind. Anyone that watches the game, and you've all seen it, you see Pendles out there. He's directing every stoppage. He's directing his points fingering. His points, his fingers pointing after every goal, whether they kick it or we kick it. Pendles is talking to someone on the way back to the centre, and he's coaching them on the field. He's literally that leadership can't be underestimated. That's why that win against, I know it's North Melbourne and they aren't great, but that win against Freo and North with two under sides, one was on a 5-day break, and that you can't underestimate it. They've come in and without some leaders. And they've got the 4 points, and there. I said in my review of the North game, it wasn't as if we were challenged per se so much by North Melbourne, like we were obviously in the first half. But I think because of the lack of the games experience that got taken out of the side and the on-field coaching with, obviously with Sidebottom and more, and even and Pendles and even Darcy Moore being the captain, not being there to give those directives out too, like he does in that quarterback sense. I feel as if we just needed to find the right time for those decisions to be made, and maybe it was at halftime when the boys went in, and then we had the coaching group meeting, obviously in the club room and stuff, and then they could reassess. Because if you had those players in there, those calls get made straight away. Like how I haven't spoken to you about this obviously before the show. This is just us talking off the top of our heads, but I'm thinking about what you're saying and how many times do these guys just put their hand up and just do something and then it just comes out and it comes to fruition quite perfectly.
Yeah. And I think another thing, the last couple of weeks, we've also missed Scott Selwood as one of the assistant line coaches as well. So that would have sort of impacted also like within the games as well, because obviously Fly is coaching on the ground and you've got Skipworth down next to him. So sometimes some of those game trends, the other assistant coaches up in the stands, they're able to pick that up a lot quicker than the guys actually on the ground. So I mean, I'm not sure. I'm thinking Scott Selwood will be back this week, so that should help out the coaching group.
We're facing challenges amongst ourselves though, with the magnets being moved and with the players out and stuff like that. And it's so good that we've actually we can respond to the challenges that are in-house as well as the challenges that are being given to us by other sides. And I mean, if you look at Gather Round against Sydney, we had a great win, but they were challenging us all the way up until the start of the last quarter, even though it was a comprehensive win. Adelaide was a pure example. Fremantle was a pure example. Even to the point where, Geelong, we lost our rhythm and stuff and they hit the front. And then at the end of the day, the game was really on our terms. The Western Bulldogs, another challenge all throughout the game, and we responded quite well, and we just were able to hang on. They're the external challenges because you've got other teams obviously giving us pressure. But the Fremantle game, not so much the Adelaide game, but the Fremantle game and the North Melbourne game, they were in-house problems. They were managing players, getting ourselves right because we're looking to the future, but we're also trying to acknowledge the task at hand. And I think we're so far in front of where we were last year, and we've only had got 3 different players on the field, 3 different acquisitions to the side. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, look, if anyone were to say we're going to be 9-2, I know there's someone on this panel that did say that we're going to be 9-2, but and that was Hats.
That was me, Dad. Back in February, I said we'd be 9-2 after 11 rounds.
What's the lotto numbers for this Saturday?
Hopefully it's tonight. It's 50 million.
50 million tonight. I haven't even checked my ticket. If I've gotten up, I'll be cutting the live stream short, boys, because I'm on a plane to Europe on Monday anyway, but I'll be flying business class if that happens. No, nobody won. It's gone up to 70 million.
Oh, damn it. I was going to buy Carlton and send him to the VFL.
No, that's all right. If I win the 70 million, I'll buy a box at the MCG. Fuck it. That's what I'll do.
Oh, yeah.
Let's move on to the Hawthorn game. We've got quite a bit that we've got to cover. I'll just quickly get to some comments quickly before we get to that. So if you've got any thoughts, just get ready to punch them through. I'll start here with this one from Dimmy. He gives me some good input on the channel here. The Hawks are our bogey team, no matter where they are in the ladder. They love playing us, and they always get back to form for some reason. We have that effect on them. I am not confident on Friday night. Now, I did see a stat today that in the last 27 games or whatever it is, they've beaten us 20 times and we've won 7. So they are a bit of a bogey team. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
This feels different. When we play the Hawks, I shudder at the thought because that record, speaks for itself. But I just feel we're in a position right now, health-wise, in terms of, all the players have had adequate rest. Our team is relatively settled. I know last week we had a few changes, but 1 week's not really going to hurt you. It's when you have changes over a 6, 7, 8 week period. But so those players coming back in, but it feels different. And this team will be well aware of the number the Hawks have done on them. And I've just got a feeling that they're going to be up for it because there's a bit of pride about this team. And I think Fly, especially knowing his tactic, he'll make them well aware of the recent record. And I've just got a feeling they've got a point to prove this week. And with those 5 players coming back in, I'm confident. And it's a weird confidence. And playing North last week, I wasn't so confident, which was quite weird because of the health. But this team's giving me enough trust at the moment to trust them most weeks. Where, because bar for the first game, it's been a faultless, first 11 weeks. I just feel if they can break even in the midfield, they'll have enough in the bank to get the job done. If they get smashed in the midfield, where the clearances go against them like they did against North, it'll be a different ball game. But with the personnel we got back, Pendles, Sidebottom, rotating through there, I'm pretty confident that break even in the midfield and we'll have enough, especially down back. I think we've players down back to kill their threats, which is important.
This will be a good game. This will be a really good. Sorry to interrupt you, man, but this will be a really good game for Dan Houston to just shut everyone up and just make a real big impact. Like, I think this is the game. This MCG, Friday night game. I think this has got him written all over it, especially with the fact that Bruz is out too. So there's going to be a bit more reliance on him, especially in that last line, as opposed to like pushing the ball so much up forward. Hatters, I've got a comment here for you from Nathan Hopper. Who are your losses against? Those 9 and 2.
I think I originally picked that we would lose to Brisbane, which I got wrong, and I can't remember the other one. Maybe I tipped Fremantle. I think I tipped. Yeah. But yeah, I got Geelong wrong, and who was the other one we beat? Who did we lose to? Yeah, I tipped us to beat GWS the first game, which I was being a bit optimistic in February, but still,
I think we all
I've
were
got
because
9-2, right?
I think we all were because we won the Pineapple Cup the week before and we smashed Richmond and we had that good momentum coming in. So I think everyone was a bit a bit confident. Mick Sacker's given me a good one here. He goes quietly confident for this game. Hawks aren't playing like late last year, but I sort of think though too, even when Hawthorn, they're just a mid-table rabble or they're towards the bottom, they still give us so much trouble. It'd be nice though if we can just run all over them and stuff. But their game against Brisbane, before we get to their Collingwood and Hawthorn sort of matchups and stuff themselves, their game against Brisbane, they looked off. There's something there, and I called it last season when obviously they lost to Port Adelaide in the final. With such a young side, I felt like they didn't so much overperform last year, but they surprised themselves in ways that I don't think they were ready for. And because they've got such a young list, they're probably going to have that season where we went here and then we sort of stumble around here. And then obviously the next couple of years, they'll probably go straight up again. How do you feel now leading into this game, Hatters? How do you feel that we're going to match up with them regardless of form and stuff like that going forward?
Well, I think the whole dynamic, the way Hawthorn played last year with that quick ball movement off the back line has changed with them getting Battle and Barras. And I sort of flagged this to a couple of Hawthorn mates last year when they recruited them. I said, whilst they appear to be great pickups to help their structure against, say, some of the teams, like, say, with Carlton, with Curnow and Mackay and a few other teams, that majority are probably the better teams like Collingwood and Brisbane, their strength is their small forwards. And I think that's where Hawthorn aren't as strong now. They don't seem to be able to cover the smaller forwards of the better opposition teams. And they're probably still adjusting to how Barras and Battle mix in with those other defenders. Also, they're a massive loss for them is Will Day. He's you have a look at it. I think his win-loss ratio when he's with Hawthorn is quite high.
80, so it was over 80% or something like that. I saw that stat.
He's a quality extractor. He uses the ball well. So for him not to be playing against us should really help our clearance winning ability. But you can't go in confident playing against Hawthorn just because of that history. But I'm a bit like Dan. I feel a lot more confident within our side that they will play. I expect Hawthorn, after losing 2 games in a row, to be steeled and play really well. Well, they'll throw it up to us, but it'll be just whether they can throw the punches long enough. I probably expect Pies to win by 13 to 15 points, something around that sort of margin. I can't see us really blowing them away as much as I'd love to see it happen, but because I think that they will be. Mitchell is a smart coach. He'll probably utilise a little bit of that Clarkson method from the first half in terms of trying to denying us the footy. But if they want to win the game, they're going to have to take it on at some point. And we've seen all year that the teams that sort of come at us, other than the Geelong game, where they got through us a few times, most teams don't have the capability to do it.
And on that, Dan, who do you reckon that is going to be the most dangerous for us to watch on the Hawthorn side this Friday?
Look, Barras, when he was at the Eagles, always done my head in because he would intercept everything and torch us every time, him and McGovern.
Yeah.
So those intercepts down there with Battle on him and Sissel plays down there. But just on the Hawks, there's one thing I'll never forget what Matthew Lloyd said once, who I do rate. He said it's not easy, but it's one thing to shoot up one year and from the bottom half and land into the finals and go well. It's a lot harder to back that up the next year because what happens is the next preseason, the players start feeling comfortable, maybe getting ahead of themselves.
That was exactly my point before. That's exactly my point I was trying to make.
They got a bit of that, and they got a few smarter, I guess. This all brigade and that sort of stuff. So whether or not they've got ahead of themselves, because they haven't been much. They had a pretty easy start in terms of a fixture at the start of the year. So they've been found out a couple of times against the better teams, against Geelong and Brisbane and so forth. So my gut feel is if we could, I said, it's the midfield, and I think Will Day obviously is a massive out. He tortures us a fair bit. Get the midfield at least 50-50, limit the intercepts down back, because as obviously slingshot their running game. Kill those two facets, and I think you're there. The small forwards, I'm not overly concerned about them. I know that sounds silly because they can pop up and kick 3 or 4. It's what happens in the midfield and their intercepts. If you get that part of the game right, their small forwards won't have the opportunities and the chances to dominate. They sort of piggyback off the success of the midfield and the rebound defenders. Sort that out, then they'll find it harder.
Does Sicily play forward or back against us? Because I know he's been a swingman. He's spent a few more weeks now up forward. But does he play forward or back against us?
If I was him, I would play him forward.
Yeah.
I think he will. He's carrying a groin injury, and you can tell his kicking's not nowhere near the same as what it has been. So he's injured. So I hope they play him back because I don't think he'll have as much damage down back as what he could up forward. But I'll back our defence. I mean, one thing that I've looked at this year is our defence is far superior to any other side. And the stats back that up. Like that guy Daniel Hoyne even said it tonight. He goes, Collingwood's defence is something that they haven't seen for a long time. It's the way they structure up. How many times do people say, especially that Freo game, they all said, if you looked at the stats, you'd think Freo by 6, 7, 8
points. Freo won every single main stat. And they didn't just win it. They won it by a fair bit.
They killed it. But our defence, the way we structure up, it's not just the back 7, it's how our midfield flow back to help them out. That's why I'm not so worried about their small forwards and so forth. I genuinely think we've got them covered. It's more the midfield. Win that battle, we've got enough damage up forward to
So before we go to the actual tips of the game and like you give who do you think will be like BAG for us and stuff like that, there is one thing that I really wanted to talk about on tonight's live. It's been mentioned quite a bit on SEN this morning. It was mentioned quite a bit on the weekend on the Sunday Footy Show and on the Agenda Setters and all the other shows that are popping up left, right, and centre. But they're saying the Collingwood structure and the system that we've got right now is very difficult to beat. And I want to get your thoughts, especially you Hatters, on the way our system is this season, because my opinion is the reason that we're able to implement such a disciplined system on the field is because even though we've got players that are missing at the moment, we have the capability of picking players up from the twos to come in there and play their role. And everything is just, regardless of the result against North Melbourne at Vic Park or whatever it was, we've just got players that are coming in and they're filling that void and they're doing their job. Is there a secret sauce to this system that we've got at the moment?
Oh, the secret sauce is experience in terms of age and games played. That's what the secret sauce is. I mean, they know this system. We had obviously quite a few guys out on Saturday night, but you still had experienced players on each line. And when those young players, so like Parker, right, he looks over to the left and he sees Howe, right? He looks over, he sees Quainer, he sees Frampton, who's, probably played like 50, 60 games, but he's been in the AFL system for 10 years. So they all know like that these guys are dependable for each other. And you know, if you look at, like, when you're at the ground, you can see there's certain guys, and you know, people are critical of guys like Hoskin, Elliott, Lipinski, who else is there that are sort of whipping boys, right? But those guys, they might even get sometimes 10 touches a game. But when the ground is set up, they're in certain widgets of the ground. The players can just do dump kicks to, because like if you have a look, we don't get done for insufficient intent too often, because players know that they can kick it to a certain area and someone will be out there to either get the ball themselves and take it on, or that they know it won't be a free kick. And that's just because they're so well trained. You know, I only go to training irregularly, but you know, other people, you know, that go there more regularly will tell you that these guys are so well drilled at training, and that comes with having your own VFL team, having a good development team. They've moved around a few people in the development area, but you know, Josh Fraser, Andy Otten, Neville Jetta, and now Nathan Murphy's there, all in the development area. They're helping all these young kids work with these senior guys, and that's what we're seeing the benefits of it.
Well, the sauce tastes pretty good at the moment, because I'm just rapt to see the guys that are coming in. They're just playing their role, and we had that in 2010, we had that in 2011, we had it at parts in 2018. We had it in 2023, and then obviously, you know, like Markov coming in at the time of the season that he did consistently. We had Harvey Harrison doing his thing. We had obviously Johnny Noble for most of the season, then came out. We've just got these players, obviously, that are there to, you know, play their role and execute the game plan perfectly. But this season, even with injuries, it just feels like we're so stacked. And the one thing that I've noticed too is that it's the first time in a long time from what I can remember, where we haven't, and I said this to you last week, that we've got players that don't need to play dual roles in the side, because we've got the players to come in and fill that void. Like Josh Dacos can play on the wing, he can play on half back, but he doesn't have to swap around. And on that too, one of my calls that I'm going to make tonight, I'm happy to say it now, I think Josh Dacos is going so underrated. I think this is probably his best season that he's had for us by far. And that's saying that he also won a Copeland in a premiership year too.
Yeah, I that move down back. Look, between him and Houston, just, you know, waxing off each other. That the half back line now is just as important as a wing role or a midfield role, if not more important. It's almost the most important, because and not to talk about the scum, but the arch enemy Carlton, they don't have anyone that can run and rebound like that.
They've got Adam Saab.
They've got one Saab.
They got one.
Adam Saab, Wolf.
Yeah, Wolf.
But his kicks though, like he's awesome when he gets the ball and he runs with it, and you know, and he's got that, like Josh Dacos is the same. Houston can do the same. Even Bruzzy can do the same as well. But his kicks into the forward line are all, if you've noticed, are all hospital balls, and they go, and then I know they're waiting for Kerno or Harry to go up and take a mark, but the amount of time that leaves the defenders to get into the drop zone, whereas our guys that do that are a bit more pinpoint, and I think that's a massive difference in both the team setups.
Just on,
go Dan.
Yeah, just on the system part, is it's a lot easier to coach a system when the players see evidence that it backs up and it wins games, because then they buy into it. Look, every coach will teach a system, but because ours just stacks up, it's easy to buy in. One thing about Ned Long, just quickly, in terms of system, I'll never forget, you know, what he did say is, McRae focuses on what you can do, not what you can't do. Everyone about Ned Long was he can't kick, he's not damaging by foot. That was his main knock. But they didn't focus on he's a tackling machine, he's a pressure machine. He wins the hard ball. He's got great vision in terms of some of his handballs that he dishes out, and the plays that he finds that not within not within his sort of field of vision. They're the kind of things that when a player like Hayes comes in, I guarantee you, McRae would say to him, "We're focusing on what you're good at. Go there and show everyone what your strengths are." Nothing been mentioned about his weaknesses, such as he's too small, he's too light, whatever the case might be. Every player that comes in and fills a hole, they will have the confidence that the coaches are there to say, look, you know what, just go there and display your strengths.
Yeah, 100%.
Show us what you're good at, and that goes a long way.
There's a comment here by Demetrius again, and this is spot on. He goes, our system adopts to nullify the opponent's system and then go on the attack. It's a hard code to crack. Other teams tried different tactics and failed. And that's what I was saying before. Like every time we get challenged by an opposition, we just respond to our game style. Like, for example, the Carlton game is just like textbook stuff here, because we were talking about Carlton before. It just reminded me. Yeah, it was a wet game, but they brought us to their level with that contested bullshit play. You know, it was just labor intensive. It was crap. And then, you know, we had times where we broke loose along the wings and stuff like that. And then at the start of the third quarter, that 10 to 12 minutes of that third quarter, I mean, me and you saw it down firsthand together. We just blew them out the water in that first 10 minutes. And we only won by 17 points, but it felt like a 70-point win because we just controlled so much of the game, and then our defense stood up. We're able to adapt each game to what the situation is. North was a good example, Fremantle as well. But that Carlton game, I think, was spot on and just showed how good our system actually works. When we need to execute, we do. Speaking of execution too, I wanted to get your thoughts on, there was a play in the game against North Melbourne where Bo McCreary's got the ball, and he's got the ball, and instead of bombing it straight into, you know, top of the goal square, he's just pinpointed Jamie Elliott. Do you guys remember that one?
Yeah, it was late in the first quarter, I think, wasn't it?
I think it might have been late in the first quarter, but just usually you'd see him get the ball and try and bomb it long to one of the tools or whatever it was. But the way Jamie was doubling back and stuff like that, it just looked so good. He only got 8 disposals, I think it was, on the weekend, plus a goal, Bo McCreary. But I'd love him to obviously hit, you know, the 15 to 20 disposal mark and stuff. But when he's got the ball, he's so effective with it. And I think this game against Hawthorn, he's someone who can really, you know, if he executes that and gets more of the ball, he can completely bust them open. There was one question I wanted to ask you guys on Bo McCreary. Do you think he could potentially make later on during the season, if the opportunity comes up? Do you reckon he could be the tagger that we might need going on to other players?
I don't know if Fly will ever go down the tagging path. He shown too much of that. Slybottom did it a bit last year. Look, him or Ned Long could do it. I think both would be, or even a Tom Mitchell if he wants to come in. They're the top players that could do it. Whether or not we go down that path of the tagging, it's not something that I'm 100% certain that Fly will do. I mean, he's full of surprises, so you never know. He might pull that trigger in the finals game unexpectedly and throw the option off. I mean, that's something that we've got the players to do it. With Bo, I heard something on SEN today. It's a good point. He, you know, his strength is his burst speed, and he is an impact player. So they sort of said, look, manage his minutes, and that's what they've done, because his minutes aren't that high, but they manage his minutes, I think, on purpose, and that's why that contributes obviously to a low possession game. They manage it so then when he's on, he can impact by bursts, and I think that's what they want out of him. So I don't know if down the track if he will ever be an endurance runner where he could play, you know, 80% time in the midfield. I don't know if that's his go, but I mean, he's fit. I don't think that's an issue. I think his strength is his burst speed,
I would think, Dan, if we had unlimited rotations like we had, say, under the Malthouse era, McCreary could have been a little bit like Swanee, because remember we used to like beat Swanee all the time and utilise his ability to just come on for, you know, like 5 minutes, cut it up, and then come off the ground. But with only 75 rotations, it makes it hard for him to do that.
Bo doesn't realise, in my opinion, I don't think, and he's still young, so I don't think he realises how good he can be.
No, I don't think so either.
Yep.
I don't think he's got that. I don't think he's got that mentality of, hey, like I can actually be an A-grade superstar at this football club, and if I just took my game to that next level, and that next level isn't what he's doing when he hasn't got the ball because his pressure is, elite. I think it's just taking the opportunities to hit the scoreboard and just trying to be involved in the link of chain play a little bit more when he's got the ball. But with that being said, every time he has got the ball, he's doing everything right with it. Like he doesn't really turn it over that much. He hasn't fumbled the ball. He's not, going 2-3 times at it. He's getting the ball and he's off and he's going. The only thing that I find is I don't think he finds himself in the right spots enough as opposed to someone like a Harry Perriman, who's always in the right spot in defence when he needs to be, or someone like a Jamie Elliott in the forward line who's in the right spots. I feel like he's still getting that part of his game. That part of his game needs to just tweak a little bit, and then he could be off pretty quickly. I just wanted to quickly go to some of the comments here. There's another one here that I was going to bring up. I'm not going to be on for too much or drag this on for too much longer because I want to get your tips. But Isaac Quainer, how do you guys think that he went at the start? I'm just trying to find the comment now. I'm scrolling up and down. Woodsman has said here, he goes a bit worried about Isaac Quainer's form. I thought at the start of the game against North, I was a bit worried, especially where Curtis took that mark against him and Quainer's body positioning just was all over the shop and Curtis was able just to shove him off and take the mark and kick the goal. But I found as the game went on, we started to see some 2023 glimpses of Isaac Quainer and what he can do. What are your thoughts, Hatters?
Yeah, when I was watching the game live, I was like you. I was a little bit frustrated when he dropped that mark to Curtis, and then there was another time where he got run down. But then I watched the replay again, and then I probably thought, I was probably a little harsh on him. His rebounding stuff was actually getting back to what we expected from him and what he was doing in 2023. So, and he did that a little bit against the Crows as well. So, I'm hoping that he's getting a little bit more confidence back, and that rebounding, taking the game on from the half back line like we know he can do. That we'll be able to see a lot more of that for the rest of the year.
Yeah, look, the good sign about what I saw against North, he sort of got semi-torched early on against that North game, and he could have dropped his head, but he had a pretty good impact. And what I liked about it, he had 20-plus possessions, and he was running through the midfield. He was starting to chain up and break lines. Because that's the Quainer that we all loved, especially in 23, where he used to break lines and beat his man one-on-one. He never lost a one-on-one in 23. So, I mean, the upside we've got in this team, when you look at players like Quainer and Houston that haven't yet reached the levels that we know they can get to, and you got DeGoey. I think it's too late in the season to put him in the midfield because I just don't think he'll have the work done for him. Yeah. But you get a weapon like him in that forward line come September. I mean, he's the one. He's the one that big bodies that you need come finals time. They're the two that I'm really looking forward to. I
don't think Jordan DeGoey's body personally is capable of playing 95% in the midfield. And to be fair, like my honest opinion is that I don't really think it ever was. He's such a good impact player to come in the midfield, get those clearances and have his moments. And Jared Waitley always says it. It's the DeGoey moment, and he has those in the midfield. But he can have a continuous impact in the forward line. And with players like Titch coming back, then we're going to inject Pendles and side bottom back into the midfield. And then you've got someone who's taken the AFL world by storm like Ned Long. Yeah. You don't really, and Crispy's obviously working his way in there. McCreary comes on the half forward flank and pushes into the stoppages as well. and Josh does the same from the halfback, and then you've got Nick Dacos, for God's sake. You don't need him in the midfield.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather him play as a sub. I know it's a big call, but I'd rather him play as a sub than play him 95% in the midfield. Play him in the forward pocket. You know what I mean? And then let him just run and do his thing and create havoc in there with the likes of Elliott and Hill and McCreary, and then you've got your Talls and stuff. I just think that if he's to come back, the forward line is where he has to be to make a massive impact. Boys, I won't keep you on for much longer. Your tip for the Hawthorn game, Hatters? Your tip, the winning margin, and also who do you think is going to get best on?
I'll go the Pies by 15 points.
Yeah.
And best on, I'll go for Scott Pendlebury.
Yeah, just some vintage wine, just pouring it all over the grass, man.
I reckon the week off will just be perfect for him.
He got all the parasites out of his body.
Yeah,
both ends this week, so
yeah.
he should be able to have his coffees and have his wine and stuff and get ready to go. And you reckon by 15 points, Dan? What do you reckon?
It'll be close for the first 3 quarters. The Pies will kick away in the last 28 points. And
Mate,
Ned
me
Long,
and you. Yeah.
and Ned Long will show the Hawks what they're missing out on.
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines, but I'm going for a bit of a different story. I actually had the Pies by 29. So you've got them by 20, and I've got the same sort of philosophy, is that it's going to be a close game, but sort of towards the end of the third, start of the last, we're really going to push away from them. I'm always a bit skeptical against Hawthorn, but I just watched the way they played against Brisbane, and the fact that if it was at the Gabba, I could sort of give it that pass mark where it's like, okay, it was away from home, come back to the G or whatever. But at the MCG, you'd think they'd be a little bit more competitive than what they were. So I've gone Pies by 29 points, but I've gone Nick Dacos to turn it up this game and just give him a bit of a revenge for the bullshit that he copped off him in between 2023 and stuff. I just think this game is just made for a Friday night at the G. Dacos, he kickstarts his Brownlow push, and he gets the 3 votes.
Can I make one more prediction?
Go.
Bobby Hill in the last quarter will kick a goal and do one of them to Guinea.
Oh, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Good night.
I think Bobby Hill's too much of a nice guy to do that, though. I reckon he'd either be one that'll grab his jumper or throw up some gang symbols or something like that. I don't know.
Who will do it in our side? Which player?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't really seem to have anyone really like that, do we?
I think Fly's changed the mentality, especially, and that's probably why Guinea wasn't that great of a fit for us. I think he's just changed from that winner mentality that he always talks about, and that loser mentality and stuff. I reckon if anyone, it'll be Nick Dacos that would probably want to do it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, Nick could. He's got that little bit of cheekiness about him.
In the interviews and stuff like that, he's very much of a professional captain sort of thing. But you look at the goal
in the moment,
the goal he kicked against Essendon Anzac Day 23, where he shushed the crowd, and then the other one he stuck his tongue out, and then he did the same against Carlton last year when he kicked the winning goal right in front of, and it was our away game, so they had all the supporters along that Shane Warne stand, and on that first level, he's given it to them. I don't know.
You know who could do it actually? It might be someone up the other end who kicks the goal. It might be Billy Frampton in his face.
Oh, could you imagine? Could you imagine the franchise doing that to him? I'm going to leave you with one question before I say goodnight to you boys. Who are you more worried about in the next 2 weeks, Melbourne or Hawthorn, taking into consideration the way that Melbourne are playing their footy at the moment?
Hawks.
I'm still worried about Hawthorn. It's probably the historical nature of it. Melbourne, we know they always try to fire up on the King's birthday. Who knows? Potentially it could be Neil Danaher's. I hope it's not. Could be Neil Danaher's last one.
We've said that for the last 5 years, though.
Yeah, I know. He's a remarkable legend, Neil Danaher.
Yeah.
But obviously, the longer it goes on, it's closer to him, finishing up. But you would think if Melbourne are going to get a spark this out of one of these games, it would be out of him being Australian of the Year and what he's done. But you know what, Melbourne might not just be good enough, to be honest. I'm probably who have we got after the bye?
Saints or West Coast, I think. Yeah. Let me just double check on that. I actually had it up the whole time, and then I closed my phone 2 minutes ago, and then somebody's actually.
Sorry, mate.
That's all right, mate.
Where's Boz when you need him? Where's that Stewart?
Where's Boz? So cute, there he is, bang.
You know what? That's. I'm probably more worried about that game because that will be one of those games where we're coming off the bye, and Dan, hopefully they don't go swimming at the beach for 2 weeks, and you know Ross Lyon will be one of those tactical Ross Lyon put us to sleep sort of games, and that's probably one I'm worried about, and especially being at Marvel too.
Look, I honestly feel, and I said it, if we can be, 10-3 or something like that at the bye round, but like if we're 11-2, even better. But if we're 10-3, I think top 2 is just about. We've got a fair chance of getting top 2, which is what you want, because our second half of the year, our draw isn't as hard as what it has been in the first half.
Yeah, I've said in a few of my videos that I sort of take it in 4-game blocks, like the month of football that's leading up, and we had the one where we lost to obviously Geelong, and then we beat Freo and went back block 3-1. This one here we've had Adelaide, and then we've had obviously last week's game against North Melbourne. So we've got the 2 games now before the bye. My pass mark is 3-1 in this one, which will leave us at 10-3 at the bye. If we're able to get all 4 going into the bye, that makes me more worried as a Collingwood supporter. Historically, after that mid-season bye, we don't usually come out. We don't usually come out firing. We might lose a couple
on the side.
And then start kicking on. So, I'm not saying that I want to lose, but I would be content if it's 10-3 and we lose to Hawthorn and beat Melbourne. That's what I sort of expect, but I still think that we're good enough to beat both of them. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's a good problem to have, the stacked side players doing their thing and being in the position that we are on the ladder. So
just one final thing, Andres. Are you going to do a mid-season draft wrap-up tomorrow night? Are you going to do that?
I would love to, but I'm not even going to be on the Jumper Punch show, the Carlton show, tomorrow. It's my son's birthday. It's my son's birthday tomorrow.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
I'll have it on the TV in the background, and the family and stuff will be over. So I'll chuck some stuff on my Instagram then too. But this is pretty much my last live, which I was going to tell everyone after you guys got off. This is my last live until probably the first week of July, because I'm obviously going away on Monday. I'll be doing one video a week, which would be a review and a preview to the next game, and then because I don't want to be spending my entire holiday doing videos and stuff. But June will be a bit more of a lower content, but then July it's just gonna be fucking smack trying to get to that.
Why can't you go live from the Greek Islands, mate?
Yeah. Mate, last time I was in the Greek Islands and Collingwood was playing, we lost to Sydney by 1 point in a prelim final, and I was actually on Skyscanner about to book my flight home for the grand final, and I was telling Dad to get the tickets, and I didn't want to tell my wife we might have to cut this one short. Luckily we didn't. think she would have killed me. Boys, thank you so much for jumping on. I really appreciate it tonight. Dan got his computer and stuff working. I think he ended up changing up to his phone or something. I don't know what he did there, but he got it working, which is fantastic. Hatters, your input's amazing. Thank you guys so much, and I'll speak to you soon, all right?
Hey, boys.
Thanks, boys. Love the show, mate. Good on you. Great fun. Cheers,
mate. All right. So pretty much we're going to wrap it up from there. As I said to the boys, this has obviously been my last live for 3.5, 4 weeks and stuff. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's jumped on and stuff like that tonight, and obviously over the past few months and stuff like that. There will be just a little bit of a lull for the next couple of weeks, and then I'll be straight back into it pretty much the first week of July. But there will be one video posted a week while I'm away. Also, if you haven't already, please jump on my Instagram. I'll be posting frequent stuff on Instagram and everything too. So you guys will have all content and everything like that will still be on that. So the link's in my bio to that one there. Make sure you guys visit our sponsors, because without them, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. Thank you to everyone who's jumped on the stream tonight. I will leave you guys with my big haul. I've got 2 big hauls here that are brought to you by Hopper Bros Barbecue that I want to sort of get my point across. Now, I think our defense, my big call is our defense is going to be too strong for Hawthorn's forward line pressure. I don't think they've come across a team yet who's going to be able to stop their forwards, especially their small forwards doing their thing. So I'm giving our defense a big rap, even though it might be higher or taller, than what their small forwards are. I still think we've got them covered. My big call, which I mentioned before, I think this is Josh Dacos's best season that he's had. It's going under the radar, and I think it's going under the radar because we've got players like, obviously, his brother getting all the attention. Dan Houston hasn't set the world on fire. I think he's been okay, but he hasn't set the world on fire. So there's been a lot of media focus on him, and also this resurgence and this, this shining star that we've got in the midfield now in Ned Long is taking a lot of distraction away from someone like Josh Dacos. And it's going to be the same when Jordan De Goey and Tom Mitchell come back in, and it's going to allow him to do his thing. I genuinely think he's going to win the Collingwood Best and Fairest this year. And at the moment, I think he's got more Brownlow votes than his brother. But that's just my personal opinion. That's my big call. Make sure you guys drop a comment. Make sure you tell me what you think. Call it as you see it. For the last time, just for a couple of weeks, go the Pies.